So you guys all know we're waiting for Ken to get here to go through the actual session that he's put together for us, but I'll give you a little food for thought here. Every year I try to go through YouTube and just grab, I mean, it's pretty easy to find. You never can find good umpire calls. It's really easy to find bad umpire calls because everybody likes to put those on the internet. So what I find is helpful from watching these videos is it's kind of like a what not to do and what can happen when you don't when you're in the wrong position or you're in the wrong place. Now, so like I said, these videos are more, I'm not gonna, everybody makes mistakes and everybody does things differently, but you can see by watching this video, you'll be able to see a lot of problems. So watch the home plate umpire, and then we'll just kind of watch everything that happens and just have a short discussion while we're waiting on Ken. So you guys good with that? So obviously, who can point out maybe the first thing that they see that the home plate umpire has done wrong here?
I'm gonna be quiet.
You're an umpire. You're not supposed to be quiet.
Who is that?
Your brother.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought. That's where he would be standing. That umpire.
Bush,
You like that position, Sarge?
Bush, you gave it away when you said that's where he would be standing. You gave it away what he wants you to get these people talking about.
Now we don't know the score. We don't know if he's ready to go home. I don't know if this is the 7th inning and it's 15 to 2, and we don't know what led into this, right? But he was obviously in the wrong position, right? We don't, in USA softball, the big difference when I started in USA softball about learning how to umpire, and they said it's the training that we give you. That's what makes us different. Somebody's waiting to get in. Oh, okay. Let me admit. I don't know if I want Barney in on this or not, but Gary, we're waiting for our fearless leader. So we're having a group chat about this video that we just watched. So I'm sure we'll get to watch it again and you can chime in if you want. But USA softball. How you doing, Dave? Nice to see you or hear from you. Gives us tools with our umpire manual and with training videos and classes like this to help us get in the right position so that we make the best call that we can with the information that we have, so that stuff like this is less likely to happen. So let's go ahead and finish watching this. I'm going to back it up. I'm going to watch for you guys that just joined us. So we're just having a discussion here while Ken's getting settled in about this play. And we're talking about the home plate umpire and kind of how he handles this whole deal.
Where'd the sound go?
How about now? Can you guys hear us?
I can hear you.
All right.
All right, there it is. Sorry, we plugged in a different microphone, so that maybe. So I'll let Ken go on about that umpire in the position that he was in. You guys can all see the same screen that I'm seeing, right?
So going back to the play and just watching it a couple of seconds here while I'm still taking my coat off, trying to get settled in. I apologize again for being late. So where he ends up is typically where a college type of mechanic will put you. But remember, USA softball wants you 90 degrees to the play, which in this case is going to put you up third base line extended. And Rock, if I'm misquoting any of this, please feel free to jump in and correct me. So realistically, he's on the wrong side of the play to begin with for what USA mechanics are pushing. But we want to keep ourselves at that 90 at the plate, up third base line extended. Or at third base line, excuse me, not extended.
So if I back this up.
The coach is in the white t-shirt.
We're gonna back this up to the moment that he,
At the end of the play, is, yeah, coaches.
so look at the umpire's position. And you can look at, you can kind of, well, I want you to see, think of this from his point of view. Did he really think that she tagged her? He probably did, because he's looking there and he's thinking, oh, she got her on the back. That's, I mean, that's all he could have saw, because he couldn't see the separation, right? So now I want you to watch what's gonna happen now with the coach in the white t-shirt. Hey, well, I've got a problem, right? So is the coach being a hothead? Or he just realized that guy made a huge mistake and he's gonna chew his ass over it? Right? He's got a right to be upset about it. Now, you know, he doesn't have a right to be an asshole, but the umpire could have prevented this with good mechanics. And so with USA softball, and what we're gonna talk about tonight is the basics and how to be prepared so we don't end up in these situations very often, or at least we can try to help prevent these situations from happening.
So in kind of using that as an intro, and Chris, thank you for doing that while I was out. So tonight is primarily based on if you are a brand new umpire to USA softball, softball in the Valley, anything like that, as it pertains to the fast pitch game. Now, we're not going to get very deep here, and I'm actually hoping that through the course of this, some of you that have been around Butch, Rock, Ron, I'm hoping that you guys can help build on some of this stuff that I have in here, because it's pretty basic. We're going to go through and have some discussion points throughout the start of this. And at the end, we will talk just general mechanics, your safes, your outs, safe out, ball strike, all of that. So we're not going to get too in depth on mechanics this week. We're going to basically try and help the new official get to where at least they know where they're going when they sign up to do this. Not necessarily whether they need to go on the field. We'll cover that more next week, as next week will be kind of that bridge in between your beginner and advanced. So we'll cover a lot more mechanically next week than we do this week. But the goal here is to just get people involved and share stories of some of the stuff that we wish we would have had when we got started. Because honestly, I will be 100% truthful here. This was a hard study club for me, because thinking back on all the stuff I wish I had going into starting, you know, the list could go on for miles. So I had to pare it down to a few basics before we get going.
This is where I'm getting. I've lost my share screen option.
Your share screen's up there. Point again. Okay.
We went in, when we went in, there was the new place over there behind the old Buffalo Wild Wings had a leak. And CFT had a leak, being this cold.
It was sharing.
Okay.
Okay. My fault.
Don't ask my brother how to do anything technology.
The tech.
Said, don't ask you to do anything technology related.
Hell no.
Look how old he is.
Hey, I have a question for both you and Rock. Did you
Go
guys,
ahead.
did you guys get the message about all AA having to unschedule the JV and varsity games starting at the same time?
No, I haven't heard yet.
I got it. if that helps.
Okay, because I have no idea what the ruling was or whatever code they're breaking. But the way it sounds that you can no longer do JV and varsity at 3 o'clock and then the second game at 5 o'clock.
They have to stagger their start times.
So everything's got to be staggered, exactly. So for us at Gallatin High, that means you start at 12 for varsity, JV at 2, varsity at 4, JV at 6, all on the same field is what it sounds like.
Be something we get into.
You said staggered. Why can't they go 12, 1, 2, and 3?
Not all of us have your game management, Sarge. We can't get varsity games in an hour.
No, they gotta be on the same field. You have numerous fields of the complex.
Okay, even if, but still, you can't have the two games going on at the same time is what it sounds like. So I'm asking, do you guys know what code or agreement they broke? And why someone is taking them to court over it and why they're changing?
No, but I'll find out. I'll ask around.
Okay,
Thank you.
can you guys see the study club PowerPoint that's up?
Yes.
Okay,
All right.
all right, Ken, you're up.
So you can go ahead and advance past this. I'm not going to give you a head nod because we found out last week that's way too confusing.
Okay.
So in general, welcome to study club number 2, which is fast pitch beginner. Again, going through kind of what we wish we would have known, especially those of you that have got some experience in the room, both physically and in Zoom. We're going to walk through the registration stuff again, Chris. We don't need the full spiel from your end, but just generally what you need to do to get registered for USA Softball, why it's there, everything like that. We're going to go through this section that says things I wish I knew, and I've got a small list in here of things that I wish I knew. And again, this is where I'm hoping you guys with experience can kind of jump in and share some stories to help new officials be prepared for what they're walking into. We're going to talk about the gear differences between, the bases and the plate, realizing that those of us that are, as Corey calls it, official umpires through USA down here, we're going to be working a lot of one umpire system versus the kids that are working 2 umpires, things like that, things to help, kind of reach you in that direction. And then at the very end, we're going to talk again, just very basic mechanics, signals primarily, and then we'll get into scenarios in the 1 and 2 umpire system more so next week. But I'm hoping this becomes a good discussion through the whole thing and that we can have some good information go out to new officials throughout the state. So navigating registration, we heard in our last meeting, and again, I apologize for that not being up. I ran into some issues with my video editing software that I now have resolved, so I can finally get that up. As soon as that's up, I will send the link out to everybody. But go to registerusasoftball.com. Make sure you either log in or create your account. If you're a returning official, you will have to reset your password. You'll have to go through SafeSport again, which is in our last meeting, how to do that kind of in depth. And then concussions. The one thing we kind of touched on in the last meeting is the concussion protocol. It is a Montana state law that any person involved with youth athletics have some sort of concussion training. I also did not get a chance to send those links out, but I do have, besides the Federation concussion training, I've got 2 others that will also satisfy the state law. So those are things that you're going to need to do before you even step foot on a field. And that's all related to the Bollinger insurance. And for those that don't know, Bollinger covers us to and from the games while we're working the games, everything like that. And it is a liability insurance for us as officials. And it works in a trifecta with the players, the teams, and the fields. And I say that because the players and teams are all lumped into one, and then the fields on their own are lumped into a separate category. So those three have to be in play before anything will work as far as Bollinger insurance. Whoa.
Chris, I have a question on that. This is Maria. If you do the high school association concussion training, you're good.
Yes, that is correct. That fulfills that requirement. That conversation that I was just having about the two others that are viable is more so for people who don't use the federation to get their concussion training yearly.
So then do we just have to send you our certificate from when we did it or when we have done it, or is there a different way that you would like us to do that?
So your concussion training through the federation will get sent every year. Just make sure you have a copy of that certificate. And then I believe you will be able to upload that on Register USA when that becomes available.
When they have their account for Dragonfly, it should go straight.
Which makes a good point. With Dragonfly, that'll go straight through, so you'll have a copy of it. So that basically you're satisfied in that requirement. If you have a question or Matt has a question, just send the certificate to Matt and it covers you for all of that, regardless of which of the certifications you take. So
Ken, just have them take a picture on their phone and have it on their phone. They'll have it with them all the time.
there you go. That's a solid piece of advice right there. And you can do the same thing with your safe sport, should that ever come into question. Because usually you'll get a little badge saying that you are registered, you have your safe sport, all of that, that they'll give you a lanyard, everything like that with it as well. But it never hurts to have a backup, so a picture is always good as well. So when we register new umpires, and this is this next slide, this is all the information that we are looking for. Your first and last name, address, city, state, zip, email, date of birth, phone number, gender, and then the big question that I found out last year through the forms that I had printed up down here, everybody routinely answered wrong, was, are you working junior Olympic competition? So for perspective in this, the difference between somebody who is under the age of 18 versus somebody who is over the age of 18 registering to umpire, if you are under the age of 18 at the beginning of the season, you do not have to take safe sport. If you turn 18 during the season or are 18 at the time of your registration, you have to take safe sport. So that's a question routinely that would get missed by whether it was the youth umpires we have down here filling out their own paperwork or anything like that. But just keep that in mind, that if you are turning 18 during the softball season and you plan on working, say, travel ball, junior Olympic stuff, you need to check no, but the day that you turn 18, you need to get a hold of your local UIC and get the safe sport and background check process started early. Because there again, if you're not covered with that, Bollinger will not kick in should something happen. So insurance is a big deal. We talk about it all the time as far as liability goes. But the big things we need to remember as far as the registration process are safe sport and the concussion. Chris, go ahead. So now here's the fun part. So for some perspective on me, I started with USA Softball in 2012, 2013, roughly around there. Coming from Eastern Montana, where I'd done primarily baseball, I think I had a year of high school softball under my belt when I walked in, and then I came over here and found basically the group of people that we're talking to now. And there's a lot of stuff that I wish I would have known going in, because I could have saved myself a lot of muscle aches, pains, a lot of just mental, like I was irritated that something happened prior to even setting foot on the field. And the first one, and the reason I say this is loaded is, again, this list could have gone on for miles. as I was trying to prepare this, but I tried to pare it down to the big things. And it all starts with hydration. For me personally, the biggest thing I wish I would have known is staying hydrated, as we're all athletes in high school. Even if you weren't, you know that you need to stay hydrated in what we're doing. And we know that we lose a lot of that when we're out on a field. I can't tell you how many days I went drinking a Monster or a Diet Coke into a game and felt absolutely terrible afterwards. And now getting prepped where I'm headed this summer, I started now basically drinking a gallon of water a day to try and stay hydrated for that experience in July. So going in, I wish I would have known that part. Same thing goes for eating habits. Again, when I came over here, I was a broke college kid, so I would eat whatever was in the mess hall and go umpire a game and feel absolutely terrible. Keep your meals light if you can, and make sure that you actually have something in your stomach, if at all possible, when you're on the field. Studying mechanics and rules. Again, our focus through these, especially the next two study clubs for fast pitch, is going to be very mechanics oriented to where you should be on a field, not necessarily where you need to be, because sometimes that deviates rather quickly. And then with that rules, I wish I had gotten into the rules a little bit sooner. And basically it could have gotten me out of a lot of sticky situations. And I know Butch saw a few of those in my early years, whether he'll admit it or not. But the combination of those two can get you out of a lot of issues. And it's something that as a new official, get your nose in the book, get your nose in the mechanics manual very, very early, because that can save you a lot of issues later on. Professionalism, and what I mean by this is the whole perception versus reality, and the fact that perception is reality. When I started doing baseball, I was the guy walking out on the field with my shin guards over my jeans. I'm here to umpire your game. What kind of message does that send to coaches and players? Now, granted, in Eastern Montana, they're like, oh, great, we have somebody here who actually is going to do this. But looking on it now, it's actually rather embarrassing, I will say. So, you know, if you're just getting into it, and we'll talk about the gear you need here in a second, but just remember that your appearance when you walk on the field and your presence and demeanor is all extremely important to you being ready to go and giving the players a good game. With that, focus was another thing. I've heard the quote thrown out there quite often, that the difference between you and the person above you is the amount of focus that you have during the game. And that starts with your pregame, which we'll just talk about after this. But make sure you're focused when you come in. You know, you could have had a rough day at work, but you need to be able to flip that switch off and just go onto a field and not think about it for an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. It's all part of making you a better official. And then, like I said, starting with your pregame, that's where the game begins. You need to flip that switch right there, drown everything else out, and go forward. So now I would like to open it up to everybody in here, as well as on Zoom. You know, what things do you wish you could have known before you started? And let's talk about some of those. I hear crickets. Don't make me start calling on people.
What hand to hold that clicker in?
Hand to hold the indicator in. Or are we going with into clicker for this, since Matt's not here?
You guys knew everything that you were gonna about it when you were getting into it?
I guess my big thing was just having confidence, because if you're not confident in yourself, the players and the coaches aren't going to be confident in the calls that you make either.
Yep. How you
So
carry
if
your-
you're unsure, it's definitely going to come across.
There's a fine line between confidence and cockiness.
Yes.
I've seen it both ways, and coaches are good at sniffing out a really cocky umpire that is overconfident. That's just gonna set yourself up for a big mistake. Not what you're looking at me. See, are you can't be arrogant when you're out there. You gotta be humble. You gotta be humble. You
So
gotta
the
be
big,
humble.
the big thing with that is you have to be more or less, the word is approachable. Be confident, carry yourself well, be open to discussion, because inevitably we're in a situation where we are officiating gray area a lot of the time. And a quote that I've heard thrown out quite often is, it's how you officiate that gray area that's going to move you along that chain a little bit faster.
I remember with these guys when they started having pre-games, and I'm like, we really got to talk about this. You know, we know what we're doing. At some point, you should know what you're doing, but Ken is 100% right. Especially in fast pitch, you can sit down with your partner and you might be going over things that you know in the back of your mind, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to focus together as a team, because you're about to go out there for an hour and a half and you're about to be a part of the show that these kids have been practicing for months, maybe even over the winter, maybe for half the year they've been practicing to get on these fields. And that's why I think that the expectation for the umpires to be professional and to look the part, to play the part, and to act the part. Too many times, these coaches and kids put in way too much effort and go out there and get a subpar umpire. And I think that's where we see the frustration that coaches have. And so none of us are perfect, but USA Softball gives us a lot of the tools that we need to manage these games and to get through. And I always found it was in my first couple of years to be, if I didn't know, I admitted that I didn't know. I didn't try to BS a coach ever, especially if they were talking about a rule. And, you know, they may have been right or they may have been wrong, but I always came back with, look, coach, this is how I'm ruling on it, but I'm definitely, after this game is over, I'm going to go sit down and I'm going to figure out if I'm right or wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to come find you, especially if we're in a tournament, and I'll let you know I was wrong and I won't make that mistake again. So, you know, when I was new, and even to this day, I'll use that if I have to, if I absolutely don't know if they're calling me out, because I'm one of those umpires that learns by what happens on the field. And I think that no matter how much you read, until you see it on the field and you go through it, you might be a little confused, especially when some weird stuff happens.
I dropped third strike on a bunch of times in the dirt.
Going to help your partner.
But definitely your pregame is part of that focus that Ken's talking about. It's just trying to get everything else that's going on with your day out of your mind and be focused on the next hour and a half, so that you guys can come out of there with your hair still on your hide and everybody's happy.
Ken and Chris, one thing I think they need to work on a little bit, times have changed since when I started.
Back when
And
you were throwing rocks.
yeah, but we tend to have more unruly parents or fans, and coaches tend to get a little belligerent, more so now than when I started. How to deal with those situations?
Is Rock still on?
What's that?
Rock still here or did he leave?
I don't see him on the list.
Get booted.
So
Did-
dealing with parents,
Well, because Rock had the perfect solution when we were in Missoula for state JO. They just finished a game, they're coming off the field, and a mother literally followed him from the time he left the field to the time he got back to us over at the concession stand, griping to him about comments supposedly they heard from the umpires about their team. And Rock handled it the best way he could. He apologized. He had no clue where any comments were coming from, but he kept an even demeanor the entire time. Didn't raise his voice, didn't back down, stopped, talked to her, and ended it right then and there before he got to the rest of the group sitting on the picnic table. And that was probably the best I've seen an umpire take control of a parent after a game that was just livid. And I mean, she was reading him the riot act all the way to the concession stand.
But he used,
Sorry, he left.
well, I don't know if maybe it was an internet connection thing for him, who knows, but you're saying his professionalism in that moment, for his patience and the uniform that he was wearing
Yep.
all came through, that no, there was a bigger purpose, that if he just reacted to what she was saying, it was gonna
It was
make
gonna
worse.
escalate beyond what was happening right then and there. You
Yeah.
did an excellent job.
And
that-
and
Go
for
ahead.
for your newer people in that, instead of sitting there face to face, toe to toe with them, draw yourself a line on their right shoulder or left shoulder, straight down to their side of their foot, where you're attached at the shoulders, you're attached to the hip, and your sides of your feet are stand side by side. Don't face off it. Don't square off with them so it looks like you're arguing with each other. Stand side to side like you're having a normal conversation. That'll settle a coach down quite a bit. And if they keep turning, try and get in front of you, turn with them. And keep following around so you're standing that side to side as much as you can.
And I had to plug my phone in.
Sorry, Sarge, we didn't mean to interrupt, but I don't know if you can see this on the video, but Chris and I, if I'm a coach and Chris is an official, and Chris and I are going at it, just, I'm reading him the riot act. One easy thing he's gonna do is he's just gonna get to my side. And we're gonna talk about this in a timely manner as he pulls his wallet out as a lineup card. But that's a common tactic. What Sarge is describing is a common tactic to get you and the coach on the same level, so it doesn't look like you're arguing, even if you are arguing. And I've myself used this multiple times. To the comment about unruly parents, I had one when Bozeman hosted the state tournament and there were 3 of us out at Field 5 in Belgrade. I had to do what Chris and I just did. I pulled the coach out, pulled my lineup card out, and I said, hey, look, we're having an issue with this fan right behind us, and I suggest that you do something about it before I have to. And it's amazing that even just in that exchange of words, how quickly everything changed. Whether it's the coach goes and deals with it, which he now realizes the liability is on him, or if he's going to let it escalate, it's up to you, and you have that fan removed and you pause play before you even start back up.
Now, I guarantee you that every one of us that, go ahead.
Do you ever have, like, you turn to go stand next to them? Do you ever have a coach that is really irate and just turns back at you?
Yes,
Here, I'll show you.
Okay. Oh, God.
Just stand my face, right?
I'm going to go use the
Yeah.
restroom while you
Like,
guys
hey,
do
Butch,
this.
you got a problem, right?
Yeah.
You got a problem? You gonna keep trying to, you got a problem? We'll talk about it.
Just dancing.
Dance.
Okay.
Yeah, keep turning with them.
You stop, I'll stop. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
So,
Okay, that makes sense.
because it looks,
I also
when
feel
people
it.
see it through the fence, that looks like a conversation instead of an argument. And it's a great way to start. But what I was gonna say is, I guarantee you, everybody that has been doing this for a long time has got a story about how they tried to handle something, what they tried to say, and it backfired. It's happened to everyone, at some point.
Say with Ken's example, it worked once. It failed.
Chris, also with your pregame, when you're talking with those coaches, when you're having a conversation, your plate meeting with the coaches, you can tell them, go, hey, make sure we have time out on the field. Come to me in a comfortable manner. Don't approach me like you're hot or anything. And talk, a lot of your talking them down starts with that pregame and say, hey, we'll discuss it. We'll give, my partner and I have to get together. We'll discuss it. That part that made the original ruling or call. We'll get back with the coach respective, given the ruling that we decided on. And that just tell those coaches, make sure we have time out and approach me in a reasonable manner, and we'll discuss it.
No umpire has ever gotten anywhere without some sort of confrontation at some point, and how well you handle that moment is kind of how you get judged when you start moving up into national tournaments. They could care less about your strike zone or your safes and your outs. But if you had something come up, they want to see how you handle it. And if you're a good game manager, USA Softball is realizing that good game managers can control the teams and the coaches and the whole thing. And so that's why this part of it, you got to expect it. It's going to happen. We're going to give you the tools and try to teach you how to keep yourself out of bad situations. But occasionally it's going to happen. We're going to get caught in a bad situation. We're going to have to have some explaining to do. Don't be afraid of it. Welcome it.
And honestly, what we're trying to prep you for here through our association, just the pool of knowledge that even in the Zoom calls we have right now, is we are trying to prepare you to take that next step. Because sometimes you have to be the one to, as the phrase goes, you have to be the one to eat the turd sandwich. Because you may be behind the plate, your partner just booted the hell out of something, and they're coming to you. You got to get through that. Chris said they're looking for game managers. That's 100% accurate all the way around. But sometimes you as a crew chief, and the crew chief being the plate umpire, you have to step in and handle that after you've given your partners time to do that. And we'll talk more about when you step into those situations, because typically the mantra is you let your partners handle their own. If they bring everybody in, that's when, you know, you can get some real stuff done.
All right. You want to go past this now?
Do we
I
have
was
a-
just gonna say real quick, I just want to tag on to what Ken was saying about eating and drinking. As someone who had an issue at state a couple of years ago, a very scary issue at state, make sure you're eating and drinking at the tournament as well. I know we're going from game to game with barely a little bit of time in between, but if you don't take care of yourself, kind of like Ken was saying earlier, if you don't take care of yourself prior to the game, during the game, something can happen, and that's really scary for yourself as well as the team you're umpiring.
Didn't we lose an umpire or two in Missoula because of the heat?
I think she was one of them.
Was she one of them?
Yep.
Was
I
it
think
Maria?
Maria was
Okay.
one of them. Yeah, no, and to further iterate on that point, so for us as an association down here, one thing that we're trying to work towards is Chris has gone to McQuaid's now however many years in a row. I've been out to Oregon multiple times. And the one thing that's very consistent out there is they make sure they take care of their umpires as far as eating and as far as hydration. So basically, if you come to a tournament in Bozeman, we want to make sure you're taken care of on that front. For those of you in the fast pitch world only, Belgrade's really our only tournament this year. They have always done a great job of making sure that we have, you know, foodstuffs, light foodstuffs to go in between games. And Chris pulls out cookies, of course. But no, usually like our tournaments down here are extremely good at keeping everybody on pace and keeping everybody hydrated. But we as an association want to make that a point if you come down and work for us in one of our tournaments.
Second week in June, I need umpires.
Are you gonna cook us brisket, Sarge?
I'll have the concession cook you. That's their tournament, and they'll take care of you if you ask them.
We'll be there to take care of you as always.
Is that
Okay, thanks, guys. That is fast pitch tournament too, Butch.
You can't, this isn't you can't lobby for your own.
He's running for mayor. He's just keeping his legacy alive here. That's fine.
We'll be there.
So Sarge, we can only help out on one weekend. It's either Goosetown or JO State. What do you want?
Well, one's slow pitch and one's fast pitch, so you got slow and you have fast, and you only work slow, so you're Goosetown.
Well, no, he's a fast pitch elite, Sarge. What are you talking about?
Improper paragraph.
I guess what we're getting at, guys, here is that when you're walking into this, there is a bit of mental preparation, and we want you to realize that these kids and these coaches have spent a lot of time prepping for these games, and they only get a handful of games. In the rec league, especially, it's only 6 weeks long, and more than half, 2/3 of the girls, that's the only time of the year that they play. And then the better ones, or the ones that are available, will go on to travel ball. And so it's important for us to do our job and to try to do it to the best of our ability. And so hopefully you learn a few things through these study clubs and get a little better. That's what it's all about. And you're a little more comfortable when you're out there.
So the other thing is to bring that up is, I don't think you can short the kids that are just playing rec ball. If you walk out there and you're doing a travel ball game, you ump it at one level, and then when you go do a rec game, you ump it at a different level. I think it's got to be the same continuously. And I know that happened to you guys last year when the U16s or 14s had their championship, and they pulled a triple header on you or double header out at the complex. And the bad part about that is I'm not saying I got stuck. I was out at Gallatin for almost 90% of those games until it got time for the championship.
Yeah.
So I felt cheated because I didn't get to do them, but yet high school called, so we had to do the high school game. And I think you just gotta go into every team, whether it's rec or travel ball, when those overlap just a little, and give them your best. If you're doing rec league and out there hustling by yourself, when you get to the other ones, and there's two of you, life is gonna be a whole lot easier. You're gonna have an idea of what's going on, where everything's going. And it'll make your life easier when you have a partner that you don't have to worry about running 91 feet to second base to make a call on whether they're out or safe on the steal.
So, and to that, I'll expand on that. So one of Rick Smith's famous quotes was, by this point in the season, being the state tournament, you should be able to work 6 games in a day and have the same speed and focus as you did in game 1 of that day. That's something that we want to build towards. Obviously, it's not going to happen overnight. It takes weeks of repetition. This is not something that you can just go out and do 6 games in a row. That's not what we're asking. But if we run you on a 2-on, 1-off schedule, by the end of the summer, physically, you should be able to do it. And that's where the focus part comes back in. Again, to touch on Butch's point, you need to be able to give the teams the same game that they have at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday is that they have on that same field at 6:15 that night, and that's your 6th game of the day. Now, with dwindling numbers of officials, does that get harder when we start doing 2 or 3 in a row? Absolutely, it does. But we can try and work on that moving forward. And a lot of that comes into the pregame and how you prepare yourself to actually go out and take the field, which Chris, you can go ahead and move on from this. Why I did that, I don't know. We'll talk about it. It does kind of transition into the next slide, but know what you,
This one you want?
that's the one I want. I don't know why they're out of order, but how should you prep moving in? So again, to tell a story on myself, when I first came over here, and I think it was Gary Lindsay that I was working with out in Belgrade at the time, I was eating horribly. I had just come out of class. I'm like, okay, I need food. I think I showed up to a field like half an hour before a game. Realize that there are going to be times where that's what you have to do. Other times, try and allow yourself at least 45 minutes to get to the field, see the field you're playing on. In Bozeman, it's pretty easy. You've got either Gallatin High or Field 4
We're putting dugouts on the field right now.
at Bozeman High.
Yep.
So you've got the 2 high schools. Are they going to use Field 4 this year? Do you know?
That's gonna be up, I don't know yet.
Okay.
I guess it all depends on how much time they have to get the dugouts ready.
Another reason for being there early is, especially in rec ball, most places don't have a place for you to change. So be prepared that if you're going out there, you may have to, change and put your jock strap on and everything in the parking lot. And getting there early kind of separates you from when the kids are going to get there. It's not ideal. It's just the reality that we deal with when we're doing this sport.
And realize that in that, a lot of times, even unfortunately at the high school level in some towns, we're changing out in a parking lot. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So if getting there early gets you time to, get your undergarments on, get yourself prepped, if you know which position you're working, whether it's the plate or the bases, just be early so that you give yourself that ample amount of time. Clean your shoes if you haven't in a while. I'm notorious for rolling up with the last game's dirt still on my shoes, so that's always part of my pregame. And allow yourself a little more time if you're the plate umpire. And this, we'll touch on this again when we go back to that gear section of what I planned on going through what I use. Sarge, I think your list behind the plate is a lot less than mine, but we'll compare and contrast.
Let me ask you guys this. What is the importance of cleaning our shoes?
Once again, it goes back to.
Professionalism.
Perfect.
So you don't slip and fall in your ass.
Right, so it tells everybody one thing, you give a shit, right? You've gone through the extra effort of cleaning your shoes up. I always found that cleaning my shoes when I'm in the middle of the tournament helps me focus. I always take that 5 or 10 minutes that I'm cleaning my shoes to shut everything else that just happened off and reset. That's, that's what's always been for me.
And when we get into these tournament situations, do yourself a favor. The minute you walk off the field, yes, you're going to be hot, sweaty. You're not going to want to do anything. You're going to want to get out of everything, go grab a drink, whatever it is. Go grab your drink, come back and just clean your shoes right then and there. One of the best pieces of advice that I've ever been given from another umpire was when I was down in Georgia and I was in that mode. I would kick my shoes off, get my gear off, and just hang out for about half an hour, 45 minutes. Well, what you start to find is if you put off cleaning your shoes, it interferes with your next pregame. So just do what Chris is saying, check out for a couple minutes, clean your shoes off, get ready to go.
If you want to get symbolic about it, you're wiping that game away and you're starting over. That one's history, just like players do.
But coming back to more of a high school rec sense, you know, we're all busy. We've got lives going on, whether it's school, work, whatever. You may not have that time right after. You may be having a dinner reservation that you're trying to hit, anything like that after the game. But just give yourself ample time pre-game, I guess, is really the general takeaway out of this, because you don't know, your game may have gotten moved field wise. That has happened depending on weather, especially up here in spring. Who knows which field is going to be playable at any given time. And if you're the plate umpire, give yourself 15, 20 minutes longer, because again, you've got to put all of that gear on and be ready to go. Next point in the pregame, and these two are basically going back to what we just talked about. Be hydrated, make sure you got something in your stomach. Again, I can remember starting out myself, and it was energy drinks and whatever meager food that was unhealthy that I could get from the food hall before I went. So take an extra second, make sure you're drinking enough water through that day, and be ready to drink water while you're on the field, even if you had a gallon of water that day, because you're going to lose a lot via sweat. And I don't know how many uniforms that prove that you lose a lot of sweat when you're umpiring. And be focused. Take that extra time, whether it's cleaning your shoes, unpacking your uniforms, whatever the case may be, to check yourself into that game. Shut the world off and try and focus on what you have to do. It's a little bit different when you're doing a high school game versus a rec game. You may not need as long. And I can tell you from the NCAA side, our pregame start at 10 o'clock in the morning and game time isn't until 1. So it's just a different of expectation between different divisions. But whatever it takes for you to get focused, be prepared to do that. And then have a pregame talk with your partners where applicable. And this can be initiated by anybody. Typically, if you're the plate umpire, you're considered the crew chief for that crew. If your plate umpire, say if Chris is my plate umpire, he and I've worked 15 games together and we've got Manhattan and Deer Lodge playing. We're still going to have some sort of a conversation before he and I walk out onto the field, even though there's a good chance I know what he's going to do and I know what I'm going to do. And that reverses itself. He knows what I'm going to do. He knows what he's going to do. But to go back to what we were talking about earlier, you are setting yourself up to be in a better position to be focused if you have a pregame with your partner. When you're working 2 umpires, you might talk about holes in the fence, holes in the field where sprinkler heads weren't properly set. What's another big one we have out here?
What are you gonna do with your media area?
Media area, which is no longer an issue in high school.
Any overhanging trees. So
Overhanging trees,
if you choose to move up, I mean, there could be tarps on the field, how that's handled. I
Yep.
mean, just
goose poop over in Livingston. I mean,
Belton High had
wet
ice
spots.
on their field last year.
yep. So that's something that you would want to bring up to your partner. Okay, like if X happens, how are we going to deal with it? But basically your general pregame should be positions, where you're going to go on weird plays, and when are you going to get together,
and always talk about extra innings.
and always talk about extra innings so that way they don't happen. If you don't talk about it, they usually happen. So yeah, in general, I have a few notes there. Talk field conditions, possible problem areas, and then talk new rules, especially this year with USA deviating from Federation and allowing the pitcher to be airborne. I won't say leave, even though Matt's not here. Allowing that pitcher to be airborne is going to be something through the high school season that we fight all year long. Just because the 2 codes are not synced. We're going to have pitchers in high school that are trying to get that into their repertoire early. And it's not going to play well if we're on a high school field. Now, keep in mind with that too, with both feet airborne, if they choose to drag, they are considered on the ground if that toe is still in line with the divot that they're creating. And Victoria, in that email that I sent you, I think it was last week, pertaining to the difference between the two, just keep that in mind. So as the pitcher drags their toe, they're obviously creating that divot. That toe is still considered down if it's below the line of the dirt. What do you got?
And that's a good thing to bring up in your pregame with the coaches, is to remind them that can't do it here at high school yet.
Yep.
So you gotta maintain contact with that rubber bush away.
Yep.
And if you do it then, the first time you call it, they can't come running out of that dugout screaming and hollering.
Oh, they can. There's an easy solution for that.
Well, that's exactly it.
You wouldn't know, you wouldn't know, you don't know what that means.
I don't know what this
You've never
means.
done
I
it,
talk a
so you
big
don't
game,
know.
but I haven't done it yet, so that's fine, whatever.
You haven't done it yet?
Hmm.
Oh, you do talk a big game.
Well, so while we're on that
The
topic,
thing
we might
is,
as,
if you manage your games, you never have to throw anybody out.
He's a good game manager.
You don't have to.
again, so let's talk about the white elephant in the room, which is ejections. For those of you joining us via Zoom, we will talk this big game about how you dump the coach, you dump the bat boy, you dump the water boy, and you dump the guy hauling the beer cooler, everything else like this. But for years, we've been taught our main job is to keep people in the game. But there is a line, and Chris found it multiple times this last year, where that just doesn't work. If somebody has to go, they have to go.
Dump
Yes.
One guy.
One guy that meant the world to everybody, but that's neither here nor there. But our goal is ultimately to manage that game, to keep everybody there. But if there comes a time that you need to pull that trigger, pull that trigger. Chris, do you have anything to share on this since you're Captain Hook?
I will share the only piece of advice I ever got about ejections from Rick Smith. And he said, it's our job, like Butch reiterated, to keep them in the game. And that's where it comes back to game management. If you're doing a really good job, you can kind of get ahead of those problems and stop them from happening. If you're a really good game manager and you can talk to people effectively, you can stop a lot of that from happening. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes people they want to get ejected. That's what LP Montgomery told me this year in Oklahoma City was, maybe he wanted to go. His team was down by 14 runs, Mr. Duncan. Maybe he was trying to get them excited. Did you think about that? No, I just thought it wouldn't look good if I tossed somebody that is come from Hawaii to Oklahoma City. So I gave him a longer leash than what I probably should have, but I wasn't managing the game very well.
That was
So
my problem. I gave him too long of a leash.
well, he didn't need to be dumped. It's just my,
The thing is, you have
Conversations
to
weren't
find
being
that
effective.
comfort level for you. And to bring this back to a pregame talk, again, if Chris and I are, working a game, say we're working Bozeman Gallatin, we know there is some bad blood there just naturally because they're rival schools. And through some other channels, we also know there's some bad blood between players for various reasons. So that might be something Chris and I bring up in our pregame is, hey, first baseman from here and this player from the other team, they have this beef. Watch out for anything goofy, because we actually did have an incident last year that teetered the line of unsportsmanlike conduct that could have seen one player ejected over that whole thing. So it's something to be aware of. And if you know that, share it with your partner, because again, you can head off a lot of these issues just by talking about it firsthand. Any
Yeah.
questions?
Actually, when I was playing softball, we had a huge rival against one school. And it got heated in the game. The umpires didn't really do anything. So after the game, we were away. So we were leaving, and some girls from the other team came up and was like pushing around one of my players. And it could have been like kind of resolved in the game with the umpires stepping in.
The thing is, and the important line to toe with that, we don't want to interject ourselves into that.
Yeah, but
Because,
when it's starting to get physical in the game,
yeah, absolutely. But the other issue is You know, in football, it becomes glaringly obvious when two teams are at each other's throats, especially if you're in the middle of the field. It becomes pretty apparent. Now, as an umpire, how do you discern she may have misstepped and hit somebody's ankle versus that was malicious? So that's where I'm saying, don't interject yourself into it.
Yeah.
But if you see a pattern starting to form, maybe talk to that coach and be like, hey, I'm noticing
Or
this.
if they push
Never,
you off
ever-
to second base.
Don't ever address these girls directly. You know, unless you have to, like
Yeah.
you're talking to the catcher or something like that, would be, you know, be mindful to go to the coach and have the coach resolve the issue. We're not gonna be the ones that resolve the issue. I mean, very rarely, I've hardly ever seen an issue with girls out on the field. I'm sure, you know, but I haven't done as much fast pitch as some of you guys, so, but my problems have typically been with coaches chirping or parents or whatever. But, you know, I know we're focusing on maybe the bad or the worst thing that we're all have to deal with out there. And it is definitely something that we have to deal with, maybe 10-15% of the time, if that much. It's very rare that there is an issue. And if you do the mechanics, like USA softball, that's gonna lower that percentage that something bad's gonna happen, right? Because they can't argue with you if you were in good position. They can't argue with you on a bang bang play. And let's think about the good things that happen when we do rec ball or JO ball. We get to see all these kids accomplish things that they've never done before. We get to see a kid that might get her first strikeout, and you might be the first one to reward her for it. You might see the very first home run that a girl hits. You might get to see a grand slam or a stolen base, or all those things that we grew up cherishing as young men and young ladies in these games. We get to be on the field and be a part of that. It's not just this negativity that we get about bad calls or bad rulings or whatever. Think about it from the kids' perspective. We've got to be out there to give them the same things that we had when we were little. And I wish more people would realize that, because maybe more people would do it. These kids are really missing out on people being leaders out there and being a, you know, I remember umpires when I was growing up and they would do multiple sports, and I always looked up to them because it's hard.
Who were a 3-sport athlete for a little while.
Yeah.
It's a big time commitment, and it's one that we're realizing parents don't necessarily see. Because at the end of the day, and I think it was actually Gary that made this comment, we spend more time with some people's kids than they do. So if we keep it professional, we give them a good game to the best of our ability. At the end of the day, that's what they're gonna remember. They're not gonna remember that we booted a call at second base. Okay, we move on. So
I get way more, we appreciate you, thank you. I'm sure you guys too, than the complaints. It's just we remember the bad moments, because then that makes us maybe question what we did. And that's why we come back to study clubs, to try to get better, so that we're for sure in what we're doing and what we're saying and what we're telling people. And so when those moments happen, we can deal with them better.
So just to kind of finish that slide, in general, your pregame, once you walk out of it, you should be able to flip that switch. Go from you're delivering sheetrock, roofing, putting up siding, you know, whatever the case is that day, if something weird happened, you need to be able to just flip that switch and walk out on the field and give those kids the game that they deserve, which is the one that we can do to the best of our ability. So you can go back.
Maybe we'll go back.
Yeah. So just in general, for those that are new, and again, I don't know that we necessarily have anybody in the channel that is new right now. The reason we want, there we go. The reason we want extra time for plate umpires, obviously, you're talking plate shoes, all your undergarments, protective equipment, shin guards, chest protector, mask, all that stuff. You want to make sure that's all there. Ball bags, indicator, you know, swan nose. What's that?
What is a chest protector?
What's a chest protector was the question for 500.
That's a great question. I don't know. Sarge, you got me on that one. And for base umpires, you know, making sure that you got everything you need. You need an indicator. This is not baseball. Our base umpire does carry an indicator
And a brush.
and a brush. And just making sure all your stuff is in order. And again, if you're working kids rec, you may not know what you're working until you get there. You know, for us working high school and anything else, we have a good idea of what we're going to be working just through communication with our partners prior to the game.
And if you know you're working with partners, make sure you know what uniform you guys are wearing, right? Because we have a couple of different varieties of uniforms. Technically fine. But I mean, if you do have a partner, make sure you guys are showing up with the same uniform. So that means you gotta talk to each other before the game, before you guys show up.
So yeah, even before your pregame, you're pre-gaming. Reach out to whoever you're working with, confirm what time you're gonna meet, confirm what uniform you're wearing, and the rest of it'll just kind of fall into place.
Around here, we typically leave it up to the plate umpire to make initial contact. So, you know, Butch, or if I'm working with Butch or Ken, they'll send me a text, hey, you know, we got a game tomorrow, let's be there at this time. And what do we, my next question to the plate umpire might be, what are we wearing? We're red and powder. Okay, perfect. So just so we're clear, we're on the same page.
Yep, and then the rest of your pregame, you can take off when you get there. All right. So now just basic mechanics, and again, for those of us that are in the chat and in person here, we know most of these. We know that a ball, when you're going to call it, you're going to be down in your stance, which we'll talk about, heel toe stance. And with the camera angles we have, I really can't draw it at this point or even show it. But we know that it's just a verbal ball while you're still down in your stance, and then you come up, you step back out of your stance, wait for the next pitch. For strikes, we know that we have our arm 90 degrees to our body. We come up, we say strike, or in my case, it doesn't sound like strike at all, but you call the strike while you're down in your stance, and then you come up and give the arm signal, making sure to keep your arm at 90 degrees, everything at 90 degrees, and big and loud. Fair and foul. We know that fair, as we're on the line, and we'll talk more about this next week, we're going to be on the line and we're just going to point. Because what do teams do when they hear anything come out of our mouth? It's usually stop. We know that fair is just pointing one way or the other, depending on which direction you're going in. Foul, you're going to throw both of your hands up above your head and scream foul. Safe, we know comes from right in the middle of our chest, comes straight out, and then we drop it straight down. Now that's something I know a few of us were working on last year, because we always got into the notion that it needed to be come out, and then we had something else we were doing. But the safe signal from USA Softball starts right at the middle of the chest. Both arms extend out flat, and then you just let it go.
Ken, I got something. You said throw both arms up in the air on a foul ball.
Yes,
Make sure their palms are facing forward, not into each other.
you don't want a touchdown here.
No, we don't want a touchdown. So the correct way is palms up, facing out, foul.
There we go. We got some stuff to go with us here.
Share it first.
Of Chris shares. That's true. So all of this stuff is in our umpire manual, obviously. So routine, safe, or no catch. Again, arms straight out. And then the big thing is just drop them straight down once you've given it. We won't talk about sell safe because that could have easily been sell out. Routine out or strike call. Again, up, make sure everything's at 90 degrees. Make sure it's out to the side of your body, because out in front is wrong for this game anyway. Chris, do you want to demonstrate one of your 12 sellouts that you have for the group?
Oh, I'm not doing sellouts today.
Oh, okay.
I don't have time for that. That's more in the advanced class.
Oh, okay.
I will say that when I went to the national school a couple years ago, the best way the way they want you to make an out call, stand up against the wall, you know, don't put your nose on the wall, but right next to the wall, and then raise your hand up and like you've got a hammer, right? And you're trying to pound that wall, but you got to stop short because you don't want to hit the wall. That's what they want to see. That's your alignment with your body, square with your shoulders.
And with that, just a thing that I struggle with is make sure that if you're signaling out, the verbal for out comes with the signal, not the verbal and then the signal or any variation thereof. They should happen simultaneously. So fair ball there again, you're on the line, you're just pointing one way or the other. Dead ball,
You're pointing with,
The finger that goes to the field.
right, so if it's down the right field line, you're using your
Right,
other right,
your left.
right field line, left field line,
One way, either way.
eastern Montana again.
It's that Eastern Montana education that I have that's really kicking in right now, left versus right.
So if you're looking down the right
First of all,
field
you gotta look
line,
at your palm and see which one's
Which
right.
one makes an L in here? Okay, so left field line that way.
That could work in the pregame.
There you go.
It's
Yeah.
wrong,
so
yes.
we're always pointing to fair territory. if it's-
Yes.
If it's fair. We're not gonna get into ball status at this moment in time.
No, we'll talk about that later.
You do this a lot.
To what Sarge was saying, again, both arms up in the air, palms facing out towards the field. Calling time, dead ball, no pitch, or foul ball. Next one, we're not gonna talk about right now. We're not gonna talk about play ball either. Not gonna talk about the count, that'll be next time too. Or foul tip, or that one.
Looks like he's dabbing.
You can talk about that one.
Which one, home run?
Yeah, that's easy.
So a fist straight up in the air with your right hand,
No finger.
no finger. This is commonly what we do is we stick a finger in the air and we're twirling it around. That is not USA Mechanics. It is just a fist
Just a fist.
and you rotate it.
Not like a lasso, just the wrist. You're not
See
needing
now
Iowa
with
City to
Chris
bring
being-
them in.
See now with Chris being a lead, we can insert all sorts of new goofy mechanics and just blame it on that. We won't talk about illegal pitches, but delayed dead ball is the same signal as those. So remember, you've got your left hand straight out, calling illegal obstruction. Anything like, what, now you're doubting me even though you lost your left arm in
I
Oklahoma?
didn't say anything.
You're judging me right now. I don't
You're
appreciate that.
projecting.
What?
This is post game.
Okay, fair enough. So just make sure you use your left arm on that one, and the main reason for that is so that everybody sees. If you're gonna verbalize illegal or obstruction, it just needs to be loud enough for the players around you to see and or hear.
And you don't, if you do have we'll get into this later, but if you do have an obstruction call and you're one man in it, don't run around the whole diamond with your arm out there, right? Once you've signaled it and you called it, you can kind of go back because play resumes, right?
Or don't call interference on obstruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, interference and obstruction,
We'll cover those separately.
Yeah, work together.
So requesting help on a check swing, it's not something that we use very often. And when you're working in a one umpire system, obviously you're gonna check with yourself. So whatever you got, you got. You don't really have anybody to check with unless you're feeling cheeky and want to check with the base coach just to have some fun. But otherwise, if you're working in a two umpire system, it depends on the handedness of the batter and where your base umpire is in the field. So if we have a right-handed batter and I've got a runner on second, probably not going to check to my base umpire that's over behind short. Now, if we have a runner on first, absolutely, I'll check down that way. Now, likewise with a left-handed batter, same set of scenarios. I got a runner on second, probably go to that third base umpire to at least see. And if not, we'll go from there.
You can check with your base umpire if you're like me and you closed your eyes and you looked at, the backstop halfway through the pitch. So
But to do that, all you're gonna do in fast pitch is you're going to take your mask off with your left hand. If Chris is my base umpire, I'm just gonna step out from behind the catcher. Chris, did she go? And Chris is either gonna give me a safe for no, she didn't, and verbalize no.
No, because he flinched on the pitch.
Well, that on the bases, he flinched on the pitch.
He still does, he's
He
flinching.
still does.
He's flinching.
over on his new nickname, it's kind of fast.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Either that,
I'll
or
take a
he's
sedative
going
on
to
it.
say, yes, she went and give a strike signal. So just to check if you need to do so, remember that's a tool in our arsenal if you're working 2 or 3 umpire systems.
You go check.
14-year-old girls have
Sticking up
good
his indicator off the ground.
All right,
How?
All right.
often- I have a question. You know,
Yes.
Say you got two, like, when we first started with the YouTube video on bat call. Can a base umpire, basically, well, I would just say overrule or whatever?
So-
The plate umpire. I if they saw a clear view that the gal was safe, but he called him out,
So general rule of thumb, and the way that interaction with that coach probably went, just in the context of how we saw it. That coach came up and is just adamant, she didn't even tag her. There was no touch, like, what are you looking at? So you as a plate umpire have to determine if you have all the factors. You have, in the words of Kevin Ryan, the ball, the base, the offense, and the defense, all present in your photo, what you're seeing. You can just look at the coach and say, no, I had all the elements in front of me, we're sticking with this call. Now, if there is a shadow of doubt in your mind as the plate umpire, and say I'm working with Butch. All right, coach, let's see if I'm missing something. Hey, Butch, come on in. I'll wave Butch in. We'll talk about it. And then you can have that discussion. And that discussion from me to Butch is going to be, do you have anything that would change that call? And Butch is going to answer yes or no. If he says yes, it's up to me as a plate umpire to expand on that, if I need to.
It's not, well, I think, or maybe it's yes or no.
The thing is, that when Kenny and I come to meet, I want to make sure we go, from what I had, never touch it. And then it's up to Ken to go ahead, once we're done, step back and make that decision on what he wants to do.
Yep.
Because the thing is I'm not gonna come in there and go, oh, you blew it, Ken, never
Yeah.
touched it.
But let's see,
Because we gotta be partners. I mean, if it's the first inning, we still got another 7 to go. We're not gonna backstab each other just because of the first play and the second play of the game.
I had it last year, I'm in state, I had, you know,
You call the bunt, we know.
my plate umpire missed the call at third. It was clearly a tag. He called him safe, but his angle wasn't very good. He came for me for help. First inning, and I changed it because everybody saw it. I mean, everybody. But from that moment to the rest of that game, it was a challenge, and I knew it was going to be, but it was the right thing to do because I couldn't sell it any other way. And he came to me for help because he knew he missed it. And so we were in the shit for the rest of the game. They were on high alert for any mistakes we were going to make, which is absolutely right. If you don't need to change it, don't change it. And you don't have to go for help. You can say no.
USA and Federation give us freedom to say, no, we're not gonna go for help. If we feel like we have everything in front of us, no, coach, I have everything, this is what we're going with. He can say whatever he wants, I don't really care, but I made my decision, we're going with it. And if he wants to take it further than that, that's when you start issuing warnings, stuff gets really awkward. Whereas in the college game, not to interject that too much into this, I have to go. If a catcher comes up wanting a check swing, I have to go. If a coach comes out and wants me to go see if my partner saw something differently, I have to go. Whereas Federation and USA still give us that freedom that if we feel confident in what we call, we stick with it.
I mean, I had a guy come out this year in the stadium after the third out. Teams are going to the dugouts. Coach, he wants to come out and talk about the play. I just called the guy out at first. And so when you get a little bit more seasoned, I'm going to make him ask me the correct question. I'm not going to give him anything. He comes and I made him walk all the way out there. I didn't go to him because I knew what he was going to ask. And so I was it's almost like a little punishment for him, you know what I mean? But it's like he comes all the way out there and he's like, can you go get help on that? For what? Well, safe route. No, go back to the dugout. It's a wrong question. And he just didn't know, the only thing that he can appeal is a pulled foot in that situation, right? So know the rules, know what's appealable and know what's not.
Okay.
Because the more time, they get frustrated, the more you come together as a crew, the less credibility that you have. And the longer that you stay together, the less credit. Look at any major sport. If anything takes a long time, that crew is losing credibility.
Yep. And actually, what I can tell you from evaluations from the higher levels of USA and the NCAA, they want you to get together, but it needs to be like that. What did you see? What did you see? Okay, we don't have anything different. We're changing it. We're moving on.
I mean, just look at all the complaints you have watching football games or even the basketball games here just the other night. Took them almost 2 minutes to come up with a decision on the foul. And it's like, holy crap, you just took the flow of the game and just flushed it down the toilet.
So to kind of summarize that, they don't discourage us from coming together. In fact, they encourage it. But we as officials need to know when we should come together.
I'm just keeping the flow of the game.
Yep.
Keep it moving.
That's what we're there for.
In basketball, I don't know if you ever did basketball, Butch, but I mean, that's one thing that they teach you as a mechanic is put the ball back in play. Hard for a coach to gripe at you when he's got to coach his team, right? Get it going, keep it going. Same thing for football, or, I mean, it's not as fast as basketball or softball. Keep them moving, keep that game going, because that moves everybody on. That's part of our job as game management. So. Gonna keep going through this one.
And we were doing a tournament last year with Ronnie on the screen. During the pregame meeting, we basically look at, if you guys have a question about a call, wait till time is called, ask for time, come out, go to that umpire, talk to him. If there's an issue, he'll come to his partner and make a decision. So we have a play, the manager stands in the dugout, screaming and hollering, and I said, well, what do you want? I said, at pregame, did we not say call, ask for time? Made him come all the way out, just what Chris went through. And yes, Ronnie missed the first baseman killing his foot, put the guy in first base, end of story. But then he looked like a fool because we had to walk him through it step by step. So.
That's not how you told them to go ask me, though.
I know, I'm saying, I cleaned it up. Thank you.
All right, guys, so that's kind of my spiel for study club number 1, and I know it deviated from what we were thinking it was going to be, but I feel like we've had a lot of good discussion here that you've heard from a few different people around the state, not just us. So I hope you enjoyed that. It looks like Chris is pulling something up here now.
I don't know if I'll be able to find it this quick, but
Well, we can continue to talk. But yeah, game management is one of those things that it comes with time. I know when I was starting, game management was hard, and it's especially hard in your first few years because you're not 100% sure on your mechanics. You're not 100% sure on the rules. And then you always get that little shadow of doubt in the back of your mind that you did screw something up. And what any of us in the room that are seasoned will tell you is you put that in the bank for later. You know, there's a reason we have a 2-on, 1-off schedule at local tournaments. We're trying to change that with one of our tournaments this year. But typically those are the things that you would write down on the back of your lineup card or anything like that, and you talk about in your post game. The goal, just like trying to keep the players moving, is to keep us moving as well, because if we dwell on one little thing, it goes south from there very, very quickly.
The biggest thing is if you're out there and you make a wrong call and they're screaming and hollering and you stick with the call you made, you know you're wrong. You can always go to your book before you drive home, look it up and go, okay, fine. Next time I know I was in the wrong spot. I need to be here. And, you know, the better you're going to get at it. And the thing is you need to hustle too. You cannot, you know, take 2 steps from home plate and try to make a call out at second base. You at least can get out there and get at least to the pitching room. At least you're halfway to second base. It's better than trying to make the call
yeah,
from 2 steps
I wanted to show a conference. Like,
to
yeah,
the left side
I was,
of home
my
plate
thing was.
and make the call down at second base. Because let's face it, as a player,
I
you
did.
got
I
pissed
was in
off
his
because
way.
the umpire
I
was
saw that.
91 feet, 11 inches away from second base calling you out, and you knew you were safe. So why do you want to do it as an umpire?
So what Chris is trying to pull up here
They can't
is,
see it yet. I'm just trying to get to the right.
well, just for those that are in here that are wondering what the downtime is, Chris is trying to pull up the conference he just described in Oklahoma City. So we're
Are
We're
you
just
on
gonna-
the field?
Yeah,
that's him on third.
this is like 18 games in 4 days. So
At the
I
end of the season, you should have been in shape.
should have been in shape for sure.
Just because you work for that big company
Oh, yeah,
and
I
drive
think
that truck and sit behind a desk all day.
That's true, he does. And he drives a great all when we need to get in somewhere, so
No,
he's done that for us once.
how much sheetrock did he damage?
He didn't damage any.
Oh,
Now, what have we damaged? We won't talk about that.
I wrote down these
Is that
timestamps
why it's
somewhere. and I
costly?
can't find it.
What's what?
Slow but costly.
Yeah, there you go.
I guess it's better than old shitty man. though.
Yeah.
So one of the interesting, this game, and a lot of games are this way. We were in the fourth inning. We've gone great. Everything was kind of moving. We had one play where the plate umpire was slow to signal, and it caused them to get another out. And I'm trying to get to that. I thought I had these plays, but in that moment, they lost confidence in us. And I think we lost confidence in each other a little bit because it looked bad. Not 4 or 5 minutes later, we had another play that we didn't do right mechanically, but we knew what we had. And I'm trying to find that conference when we came together and how quickly, how it looked. Think about people watching it. Like Butch said, for 2 minutes while they review a play. So I'm just trying to, exactly, I think it was somewhere around the something. I wanted to watch this game because this was my moment in Oklahoma City where I had to like learn a whole team to get them all back and kind of under. I wanted to rewatch the situation and see how I handled it and how I appeared. I wish there was audio, but there's not. So he's this guy's probably complaining about a pitch. I'm not gonna get into her strike zone. Somewhere in here, there was a weird play. I think it was at 55 minutes.
We still can't see it on Zoom.
I know, I'm trying to find it before you, I can go ahead and share it. I just didn't want to waste your time on Zoom. Let me find it for sure, and then I'll show you, because I thought the conference looked like, we looked really confident when we came together about what was going on.
No one covered first, but everybody's safe here.
Everybody's safe. I think it's this guy. I think because this is when,
You say nobody covered first?
For the red team. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I saw the pitcher running and just.
if this is it, I'll share it with you guys. I just didn't want to, while I'm rifling through video here, I didn't want you guys just.
Duncan's signal is safe.
I don't think there was a signal of safe on there.
No, this one's, I think if this is it, which I think the runners are in place, everything, this reminds me of the play. Yep, this is it. What do we got? Ooh. All right, let me share this before you, because this one, after I watched it, we got 3 outs. All 3 of us had an out, but when you rewatch it, you understand why. We came out of there with 2, but we tried to get 3. Anyways,
Can you run the play again?
yeah, I'm going to share it with
Okay.
the people on Zoom.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
I just wanted to find it before I. Oh, come on, Chris, get your shit together. All right. So I'm going to preface this here with, we got runners on first, and and a runner on first and runner on second. I can't remember how many outs there were, but just watch the play and then kind of see what happens afterwards. And if you watch the umpires, the only person that knows what's going on is the first base umpire. The only one out of 3 of us.
It's not good to sell yourself out like that right away.
Well, but I'm being honest. So we have a line drive hit to the third baseman. He trots over to third to get the force out, fires back to second. She gets a tag out. Now, watch my home plate umpire. During this play, when does she signal out? It's well after the catch, which confused me because I thought the ball hopped. If you look at my angle, I can't see if he caught it. It's in front of me. So I'm assuming we have a force out at third. So she calls an out on the catch eventually. I call the force out at third because I thought the ball skipped. Right? She doesn't signal anything until now. And I've got an out and she's got an out. This coach is coming out. Wait a minute. However you shake it, they come out with 2 outs there. And that's when we got caught in the moment, when he's going berserk here and he's coming after me, you know, because I'm the only guy out there and he feels like that if he goes after the girls, it's going to make him look bad. And that was a conversation, but there's the conference. You got this? Yep. Yep. You got that? Yep. We're good. We got 2 outs. Let's go. Did you see how
Quickly.
we knew what was going on? We knew we made a mistake, but if I've deciphered that play like 6 ways to Sunday, they're getting 2 outs no matter if the ball hit the ground or not. What I think happened here is I think that the third baseman was either playing possum or he wasn't for sure if she had called it out either. And so he has no need to come here and touch third because he caught the ball. He gets the guy at second for being not tagging. And the guy at second's confused because my home plate umpire didn't signal out, didn't verbalize it. So
Oh, okay, so
So
all she did was just make the hands gesture now.
eventually,
Eventually.
she was slow because I didn't know if the ball hopped or not. So like I said, conferences, you see how we all come together. We don't even make a big deal about it because we want to make for sure we get it right for these guys. She's like, I got a catch. And she goes, well, I got a tag out. But you can see where the players were confused because the home plate umpire had a oh shit moment.
The other thing I would say in this, and it's just an overall critique of the crew, is if you're gonna get together, even in a situation like that, the amount of space that was there,
Should have been tighter.
yes, you allow coaches, players, anybody to get into that circle.
You see,
They don't need to be there.
So what's going on with you right now?
the head coach told us we were bush league and he had been chirping the whole game and I told him I'd had enough. And he said, you're just sticking up for your girls. And then we had a problem because he made it about them being females.
Made it personal.
And I said, I said, you're gonna talk to us with respect, just like we're talking to you. I don't talk to you like that. So you're not gonna talk to us like that. Are we clear? Another word out of you and you're done. Do we understand each other? That was Mike, because it was getting to a point where he was accusing them of being shitty umpires because they're female. They have the guts to be out there at a men's A. He needs to shut up because they're out there going toe to toe with them. And they're not afraid. And so he shouldn't have tried to belittle them because they were female.
Okay. So there was one out, obviously you turned to double play. and
Yeah,
went-
but the whole thing that we should have talked about as a crew, either way, it's 2 outs. If he catches it and he gets the guy at second, it's 2 outs, right? Like he did, like would have played. But if it bounces, he gets the guy, he gets the force at third and he gets the force at second, it's 2 outs. What are we arguing about? Either way.
Did he ever run in and touch third?
No,
Yeah.
yeah, he did. He
Yeah.
ran
Oh, he
in
did run in,
because
okay.
she didn't signal out. So he was like, maybe she didn't see it, so I got to force it at third.
So first and third.
So-
first and third.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyways, that was a interesting, yes, we could have done, always do it better, but that was how quick that conference was, because we'd already had some issues, so.
All right, and with that, I don't have anything else on my docket. I just want to say thank you to everybody that tuned in via Zoom. Next week, we will go more so into the mechanical end of things and we'll diagram some plays and talk about stuff that way in both the 1 and 2 umpire system. Because again, that's where a lot of us are going to at least start our season, is working rec games as a single umpire or working in the 2 umpire system in high school stuff. Any questions or comments from the group?
I just want to say thanks.
Chris, thanks. I finally figured out this new system.
Well, good. We're glad we could get it out to everybody.
Next week, are we an hour later?
Yeah, because our
Okay,
study clubs are available first.
so for everybody
And I'll get a
online,
note out probably tomorrow for us, for high school.
you will, you're more than welcome to join us next week. Just be aware the first hour of our meeting will be the high school meeting. We'll have the same setup. And then the second hour will be that intermediate, fast pitch study club. So a little bit different for a few weeks here while we get through our high school study clubs. And again, you guys are all more than welcome to attend. But that will start next week and run for the next 4. So.
That's, you should be able to, print the study club by then, huh? Shouldn't you?
Hey, real quick here. Well,
Well, yeah, if you do, you can start your study club on Monday, the 1st.
Tuesday the first, Butch.
Tuesday, the 1st, and by Thursday, we should have it ready to go. And then if you wouldn't mind finding out what the dilemma is with scheduling the JV and varsity games.
I will make a couple phone calls and I'll also email someone.
I'm gonna try and get a hold of Beckman tomorrow, and see what's going on.
That's who I'll email them right now.
So while I've got right here at the end, I'm gonna go through everybody. I want to hear from everybody. So Sarge, real quick, why do you do this? What is your enjoyment with calling ball for kids?
My enjoyment? Oh, there's many, but the biggest one is the friendships or acquaintances I make out there, and I love the game.
Nice. Dave, how about you? Dave,
Who's
right.
you? Me?
Yeah, about the study club.
Dave, why do you like calling softball?
I love the kids, and I always looked at it as, if I'm out there, I know it's going to be a fair game to my best ability. I raised 4 girls, played ball, and had some bad calls way back when. And, now I get satisfaction to make sure that my games are 100% for the kids, and there's nobody gonna interfere with their play. It's gonna be done by the rules. So,
How long you been umpiring, Dave?
pardon?
How long you been umpiring?
Since 1972.
72. Sarge?
46. I'm in my 40s. Starting my 48th year. Started in Little League to make some money so I could ride my motorcycle.
Victoria, I know you're rather new. Why are you enjoying it?
Well, I played this game for a little over a decade, and it's kind of been my life growing up, and then I got away from it moving here to Montana. But honestly, I wouldn't have had the experience playing if it wasn't for the umpires, and especially with there being a shortage, there wouldn't really be that experience for these girls without us. And so I want to make sure that these girls have the same experience that I did growing up.
You're old.
Bill, you next. How long you been doing it?
Since 76, when I got out of the service, I started.
Why do you keep coming back for more?
Glutton for punishment.
What's your favorite part, Bill?
Just interaction with the kids. Kind of keeps me young.
All right, Maria? You figure out how to unmute? We made her go to sleep.
She is at work. I do know that, is what she told us.
And she's at work. Well,
I know, I got into it because same as Victoria for the love of it and everything, but I think what's keeping me in it as well is the love of it. Plus, I think I keep commenting on what a brotherhood/sisterhood this has become. We all take care of each other, we look out for each other, and we help each other. And I think that is what is keeping me in it, and this is my 4th season.
nice. How about you, Gary?
Gary doesn't feel dumb. That's right.
No one knows why I do this.
You do it for the girls, Gary.
I do it for the girls.
How long you been doing it?
Do it for the glory. No, I started this because I was a player and I wanted to help. And I've made a lot of the best friends I've made as an adult doing this in other sports. So it's a challenge to constantly get better, all those reasons. And I had a daughter that played, and it was fun to umpire her games.
Nice. How about you, Ken?
Oh, God, why do you start on this
I'm
side?
ending with on a high note. You talked about parents, ejections and all of that. Let's-
Yeah, that's
let's end
right.
On a high note.
So if I'm being honest, why I got into it is really my dad. I can remember countless times going to the ballpark. My dad would umpire an American Legion game. And it was just fun to be around the atmosphere. And then when I finally got old enough to, get into it myself, it was an opportunity to spend more time with him. And through the years and finding out where I can go with it, it's become a challenge for me to get to where I want to go and just kind of keep that legacy moving forward.
It's a little bit of the competitiveness.
Yeah.
Nice. Roger? But you're just getting into it.
Well, really, this should be my third year, but because of some medical things, the last 2 years. I got into it basically with football and with the camaraderie from that, with yourself and Ken. Basically getting out of my comfort zone and to meet challenges, to really to do better and to provide the kids with a good sportsmanship event.
Yeah. I kind of always wondered why we're a lot of umpires look like Butch or look like Roger, you know what I mean? But older guys, older umpires, they bring a sense of steadiness to the game, I think, and calmness, because been there, done that. You're not going to get me excited, you know what I mean, type deal. And so what you guys have to pass on to younger people like Sydney and myself is how to have that patience, know when to interject yourself, know how to not kind of be a part of the game or flow with the game and not be the game, right? It's not about us. How about you, Mike? We've drug you into this and you're back for more.
My kid.
You're doing it
Kid
for-
used to play.
Yeah, like
Gary's my hero, so.
you're doing it for
I
Gary.
want to be like Gary.
Uncle Barney.
Uncle Barney.
Barney, way to go,
Sounds like
Barney.
a- sounds like a
I
t-shirt.
want to turn around and dump Manhattan coaches at a fling of the ring. No,
They didn't even do anything, okay?
that's what I.
I mean, I never thought I would work long enough to hear Butch as the voice of reason and calmness, honestly. So I've been doing this for a day or two now.
Use him as an example. He does a lot better on fast pitch than the slow pitch. He's a little bit more rough with the slow pitch guys, but you have to be.
Those cheating fucks deserve it.
Oh, hey, we gotta edit that. We can leave
Damn
that
it,
out,
Gary,
Ken.
you just made more work for me.
How about you?
You're welcome.
I started when I was 16 back at the Little League that I played in with my brothers. And then, God, what was it? And started playing fast pitch at 16 as well,
You played men's fast pitch?
back home in California
Oh,
and in
Jesus.
Connecticut, the two spots.
Everything.
I love it. I love the game of softball. I mean, I constantly joke that slow pitch was invented for the guys that couldn't hit fast pitch. So, but I love it. I love playing it. I think the only bad night is senior night. When you watch those kids grow up and then all of a sudden it's senior night and can't talk to a single player or parent for fear of starting to cry. So you just go hide in the corner, let them do their thing, and then get on with the game.
Don't know your girlfriend.
Still, yeah, and it's,
He doesn't want to show.
it's,
some-
No, that's what I'm
it
saying,
is,
you know, like,
it is
perception.
one of the worst nights ever to be out there to umpire.
I'm sure Butch has every senior night this year.
That last year was just as bad with Talon. I mean, it's, thank God it was, yeah, I mean, it is. I mean,
There, I remember this.
it's a good time. It is just a joy.
How about you, Sydney? We've drug you into it too.
Yeah, you guys did. So this is my second year, and I think Victoria said it really well about getting in there and making sure that these young girls have the same experience as I did when I played. And then also, I coached for 2 years back home, and I wanted to still stay in softball and stay in the game. So I thought umpiring was like a little bit more flexible than having to deal with 15 girls with a bunch of drama going on.
Were you surprised as to maybe how serious we take this?
Yes,
You didn't ever think umpires put that much time in?
no, no.
I never thought umpires put that much money into it either.
Yeah, what the
Let's
heck?
not talk about it.
Yeah, definitely the time commitment. Well, it's not as much as coaching, no offense, but you weren't with girls for 4 hours a day, you know, type of stuff. Like, you know, it's a little different, but yeah, it's a great way for us to still stay in the sport and to be able to work full time and have a social life.
I mean, there are a lot of great things. Women's fast pitch is one of the fastest growing sports in the country, right? Is it still part of the Olympics? Not yet.
Yeah, they
Yes,
have a
it's
big
still
stick.
part of the Olympics. They're gonna try a women's fast pitch professionally for adult women that want to play. So this has been around long enough now, and the way that it's growing exponentially is exciting. And it's exciting to be a part of it, and especially with USA Softball as the governing body. It's fun to be a part of that program. So I appreciate everybody for sharing tonight. I do it for you. But I also do hit the ball, run to the base, and get excited about things that they've never done before.
Chris, you could be honest, you just enjoy the cheering that happens.
I do enjoy the chants. I know that's everybody's favorite. I have tried to implement a new chant that you guys can take to your associations. Just if you want to teach it, I can get you a demonstration video. It goes like, Kenny Lander, Kenny Lander.
Did you just make that up now? That was pretty
No,
good.
It's been a running joke for a little while. If he messes with us too much, we're gonna teach it to the girls and then it'll be unstoppable.
You gotta start at 10U though, so it goes all the way up.
But we're teetering on that line. Does that make it personal or not? Because if he makes a bad call and they start chanting that, there might be fireworks.
Hey, what about I know the umpire? Kenny is his name. He's the reason we're gonna lose the game.
Beautiful.
Love it.
That's a good
Yeah.
one.
Oh, Maria, don't feed him any more
I like
information like that.
So anyways, you guys, thanks for joining us. Next week, hopefully we're and a good evening.
See you guys.
See you guys, take care.
Cameras. in the
Bye,
back.
guys.
Take care.
Hey, thanks.
Thanks a lot for doing this.
Butch, Butch, can you hear me?
Yeah,
You got your phone with you?
yes.
Did you see my message?
I see the 14U bracket. Is
Not 14U, 10U.
that what it was?
14 teams, 10U.
Baby.
And they say I don't work on this stuff other than right before it. The whole thing's done. I got the others here too.
Oh, man.
Notice I got notes up there. What do you think about that undefeated game being played Friday? Otherwise, that team doesn't play at all Friday.
Oh, man, that's
Or, I mean, Saturday.
Saturday.
Played on Saturday at 6 o'clock.
This guy's,
That's your only game?
I'm not sure.
That would be those two teams' only game.
Poor mom. She just had the worst umpires.
Waiting for everyone else to come through the losers bracket,
What's wrong
right?
with this?
Yeah, and then played undefeated game at 6 or 8 in the morning on Saturday. Or I mean Sunday. 6 on Saturday night or 8 in the morning on Sunday.
Right, so I'm just saying. Why is it a
Yeah.
bad call?
That's not the right one.
That may be the only way to do it.
If I played at 6 on Saturday, I can start at 10 on Sunday, give the teams extra couple hours in the morning Sunday.
Who's doing all that? Dave?
Because no one can go home on Friday, right?
Correct. You
So
can't-
I have to play winners bracket games.
Look at the home plate, I'm like. oh, Hey, I'm going time. Nope.
You already got the umpire trouble?
I'll take pictures of all the tournaments and send them to you.
Okay,
And you tell me what you think, and then I'll even send you my master schedule.
all right.
But I'm not doing that till tomorrow, because Mama and I are gonna go get an ice cream right now.
I'll take a medium Heath Blizzard.
It'll be melted by the time we get there.
Hey, hey Sarge, when are we starting high school meetings, you know?
I'm still working on it. I'm seeing who's gonna conduct them. If Ned's done or not working, I'm gonna get a hold of everyone and say, let's go, it's time to roll.
Sounds great. Just let us know.
Okay, thanks, Maria. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Ken, Chris, and Bozeman guys, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Take care.